Well, welcome back, I suppose, is the word that I should use. But welcome to the new channel, the rebranded channel, ourCRiCKET. I'm joined by Luke Sutton, who we'll talk about in just a moment. But first of all, I just want to thank everybody that sent all of the kind messages that you have over the last 2 months. It means the absolute world to me that you've done that, and I'm so grateful to all of the support that you guys have offered. And people that I've met and people that I've got messages from that I've never ever met before. So honestly, thank you. It's been really quite touching and overwhelming at points. But yeah, so it's a new venture. And as I say, I'm joined by Luke, who, how do I introduce you, Luke? Is it a professional cricketer, manager, agent, kind of, I don't know.
For those who are watching, guy sitting in front of a slightly strange painting behind me.
Or that, yeah.
Or that. Yeah, well, I'm an ex-professional cricketer, I guess, is the way to describe it, and have moved into the agency side of the world, not just in cricket, but in all aspects. But most importantly, I'm just a cricket fan, exactly the same, I guess, as everyone listening, watching to this. I'm just really glad to be part of it, especially with this rebrand for you. And I guess on that, how are you? I guess I feel like I should ask that on behalf of everybody listening, really.
I'm a lot better than what I was, I think would be fair to say. It's really hard. Most people have experienced loss in life, haven't they? And I think people expect that to be the biggest kind of heartbreak or the most difficult period of your life that you might have to go through. I have done that. I have no grandparents left now. But to say that this might have been the worst 2 months of my life might be pretty close to as bad as what I hope it's going to get. But it has been really tough, and I've been to some places that kind of wish that I never had to go to before. But as I say, I'm a lot better than what I was from that video that went out pretty much 2 months ago now. So yeah, the rebuild is on. I still don't think I'm 100% perfect. I'll be completely honest, but as I say, a lot better than the last video that went out.
And I have to say, just on a personal level, I've obviously walked that journey a little bit with you in the last couple of months, and it's amazing to see you back here doing what you're amazing at, and I'm sure everyone will be grateful for that. So it is good to have you back. There's been an inundation of emails and messages about what's happened. How much can you say on what's happened?
So unfortunately, there still isn't an update, really. Legally, I'm not in a position to be able to say any more information than what I already have, which, trust me, like, I understand is so frustrating. I completely understand that people want to know, people want to find out, and people will in time. But I don't have that timescale. I don't hold the key to that information. It's not in my hands. And as I say, legally, there's nothing more that I can say about it, Luke. It's completely out of my hands, and yeah, when it becomes available, I'm sure people will be able to find it. But yeah, as it stands, there's nothing more that I can say on what I already have.
Yeah, and I guess going forward, that I know you want to talk through what's going to happen with the channels and going forward, but with regards to the content itself, it'll be you driving it on your own. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's spot on. So yeah, I'm going to be the one that's going to be taking this forward. And as you said, we'll talk about the different channels and the outlets, and to use kind of an old business term, a roadmap as to what like the next, say, 6 or 12 months look like, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it is going to be me. I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to bring in some really, really cool guests, but I want to kind of word it more as co-hosts. Obviously, what we're talking about here is a very unique situation, but what I would like is for a guest to join, and for rather than me kind of go, oh, so how's your day been? How's cricket? How's your stats? And all this other, how are you netting? How are you hitting them at the moment? Which is kind of all you get from newspapers. You get all of that stuff anyway. But I'd love to have kind of an open conversation with really, really cool cricket fans, cricket people, cricketers, and talk about the topics in the week, and openly discuss them. Cricket fan to cricket expert, or cricket fan to cricket fan, and just have a really good conversation about cricket with some people that love it.
Yeah, I did know actually. You just said I'm hopeful that we can get some cool guests in whilst I'm already here. No, that's fine. I just quickly say, if anybody can, who's watching this, come tell us who or what that painting is, then there may be a prize, which I don't know what it is,
right.
But we've just...
Is it the painting by any chance?
Well, possibly, yeah. So tell us about the channels. What vision have you got for going forward on the change, the rebrand, how it's all going to look? Tell us.
Yeah, so you would have by now seen the new logos and the new channel banners, which look absolutely incredible. And I have to thank Seb, who's given me a huge amount of support going through this kind of process of rebranding everything. It's been amazing. So huge shout out to him for helping out. So ourCRiCKET, the main channel with the 410,000, as this video has gone on now, as you've seen, it is now called ourCRiCKET. The word we to me always felt more of a community. It felt more than just two people. And I wanted to keep that community. I wanted the channel to be for everybody that watches it. So I still want to interact with everybody that I possibly can in comments and take feedback on board and listen to suggestions and try and get guests in that people want, basically. And the way that content's going to have to change, what's happened has ultimately forced my hand. Age is a massive factor. I'm 33 now, so there you go. The cat is out of the bag. If anybody ever wanted to know the answer to that question, and in the not too distant future, it was going to start looking inappropriate, making some of those previous videos. So playing cricket in a back garden, for example, brilliant fun. Don't get me wrong, and some amazing videos made out there. But it will get to a stage at 38, 39, 40, for example. And I think people might start looking at it going, this bloke just looks a bit sad now. I don't really think this is kind of what you should be doing. And I think the other thing as well is with the pros, I'm not a very good cricketer, Luke. Let's be honest. There's been so much evidence out there that I found my level at Village, and that's where I belong. The older I get, the worse I'm going to get as well. So you suddenly start going, oh, I'm here with Rayan Ahmed today, and I'm going to face some leggies, and he's 23 playing Test cricket, ragging them square, and I'm some 40-year-old bloke that's like got massive glasses on that can't see further than like 2 foot in front of my face. There was going to get to a point where the content was going to have to change. So this content on this channel will change. And as I said before, it will be a case of cool guests like Luke. See, I got you that time. And to have that and have it as a show. And I'm hoping it'll be kind of 20 or so minutes, maybe getting longer as time goes on, talking about some really, really cool topics. That's kind of where I am on this channel. So this is ourCRiCKET. What was more ourCRiCKET is going to change, and it's not taken a massive amount of time coming up with this name, but it's going to be ourCRiCKET Plus. That channel and that content will be there for some snippets from these conversations that we have on for the main channel. So it may be a case that moments are cut out and are put out separately. It'll also be a place for myself and a guest to talk about a series preview or a post-match review. So there's that channel. Then... No, that was Golden Duck, so I apologise. I've got that wrong. I don't even know what my channels are called. Then the more ourCRiCKET channel is going to be changed to what's going to be called Dan Jads, which is essentially in line with my Twitter and my Instagram. And in the short term, at least, that's going to provide me a channel where I am still going to be able to make cricket content. So the cricket content isn't over. It will still keep coming, me actually doing cricket. So for those of you that want to feel better about yourselves, there will still be plenty of videos out there for that. So let's talk about Luke Sutton then. For those people that don't know, I'm sure there are a lot of people watching that will know and will remember the name. And I've got Luke's stats up here, so I'm going to test you in a minute and just see how well you remember your own cricket stats. Well, I mean, you might be a badger, Luke. I've got no idea. But in terms of the playing side of it,
yeah,
you would have played for Lancashire, Derbyshire, and...
Come on, Dan. Where did I start?
Oh, that's a great question. Was it Durham?
No, a ground you know well. Somerset,
of course.
So I went Somerset, Derbyshire, Lancashire, and then I had one more year at Derbyshire. But essentially, yeah, Somerset, Derbyshire, Lancashire.
So most of your time at Lancashire, would you say? That's certainly where I remember you from anyway. When I started watching cricket, you were definitely playing for Lancs at that point.
That's a great question. I think possibly. I mean, those were probably the biggest years of my career. But although Derbyshire, fundamentally made me into the professional cricketer I was, it was an amazing club for me. But yeah, Lancashire, I guess it was more high profile and bigger games, etc. Yeah.
I mean, who you would have shared the dressing room with some like incredible cricketers, wouldn't you? Would Freddie have been one of them that you would have shared a dressing room with at points? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared this a few times, but I joined Lancashire 2006, and but I actually moved up there at the end of 2005 from and bought a house and was in there, and I remember being in the dressing room at the start of 2006, and it was obviously, but I'd played a lot of junior cricket with Fred as well, so I knew him personally. It wasn't like he was a complete stranger to me, but it was obviously off the back of that Ashes series. And I remember being in the dressing room at the start of the 2006 season, and there was, firstly, Fred was there, and it was like, I don't know, it was like Bono had arrived. He was a mega star. Even for me, knew him, etc. But we had Murali, Stuart Law, Brad Hodge, Mal Loy, Glenn Chappell. And I genuinely, and probably a few fans thought this, I thought, bloody hell, what am I doing in here? And I just remember thinking, I'm going to have to work so hard to survive in this dressing room. And I did. That's the truth. I had to fight to be just good enough to be at that level. For me as a keeper, I got the ultimate privilege of keeping to Murali for a couple of years. And, it was a ridiculously difficult challenge, and I remember him, I think we played against Worcestershire at Old Trafford, we did, and he arrived the day before the game, and he'd been at Lancs prior to me anyway, so he knew everything, and I was desperate to get a bit of practice in with him, and he just said, we'll be fine, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. I was like, oh my God, we're not going to be fine. I need about 8 hours, and he said, look, I'll give you 10 minutes of the morning of the game. Yeah. And I honestly didn't know which way it was going. And I think in that first game, I remember dropping Graham Hick about 4 times. But it did get better, but it was hard.
How well do you know your own stats, Luke? I said about it before. I've got them in front of me here.
Go for it.
How many first-class runs do you reckon? Because, I mean, a lot of people, as I say, a lot of younger people probably wouldn't have watched you play cricket. No. But there's a lot of stats here that kind of really do highlight the fact that you've had a ridiculous career with not only those players, but a serious contribution to them as well.
Oh, God. 7,000? 6,000?
It's a good guess. 7,353.
Really?
High score?
Oh, I know that one. 151 not out.
Yeah, spot on. Hundreds?
11.
First class hundreds?
11. Do you know 11? Do you know? I know why, because I had this thing in my head when I played that I really wanted to get 10 first class hundreds. Okay. And then I ended up with 11, which I was chuffed with. Yeah.
There's current cricketers out there that I know that I chat to. They know everything off by heart.
Yeah, but I actually knew more than I thought I did. So there's definitely a bit of a badger here. Yeah.
There's some highlights, isn't there, this summer really to talk about, particularly with red ball cricket. And there's a World Cup later on in the year, but I don't really want to touch on that just yet. Obviously, I've got a fair bit of catching up to do, but there's a World Test Championship next week at the Oval between India and Australia, or Australia and India, depending on which way round their flags get put up above the pavilion at the Oval. There's obviously the men's Ashes as well, which starts, I think, that's a week after the World Test Championship. I think it might be the Friday afterwards, if memory serves me right. And then obviously the women's Ashes as well, that runs parallel to the men's. So there's 3 massive things going on in the UK. I'm sure there's other things going on around the world, but can't kind of touch on them all at the moment. The World Test Championship to start with, though, and India didn't get over the line at Southampton, but they're back again. Is there, in terms of the Indian team, from your perspective anyway, are there any players in that team that kind of stand out for you that are going to have a really kind of massive impact on trying to beat Australia this time and get their hands on that? Is it a mace, do they call it, I think? It's not a trophy, is it?
I think so. It does look a little bit like that. Yeah. I think it's interesting because the World Test Championship test is fascinating for me because the men's Ashes is coming up, and it gives us a little look at Australia prior to that and how a team play against Australia. And so I think that a lot of the things that I may mention now with regards to how India play against them are going to apply to England as well. And the thing that Australia have is this very powerful seam attack. If Hazelwood's fit, you've got Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark. If Hazelwood's not fit, Boland is a very good replacement for him. So when you talk about how India are going to play Australia, it's that battle. And so you're going to come onto the names, the Sharmas, the Kohlis, Rahanes, even Gill, who played so brilliantly in the IPL just recently. Pujari's playing at Sussex. It's how these guys front up against that attack.
Yeah, like Ricky Ponting, he put that article on. I don't think he put the article out, but someone interviewed him, didn't he? He had a chat with Virat, and Virat said that he reckons he's about as good as form as what he ever has been. I'm sure he's averaging just under 50 in 2023. I think they've only played 4 tests, and I said it was really weird actually. He popped up on Twitter the other day a picture of him sat on a Southern Rail train, which obviously is like down in my neck of the woods, just sat there in first class having a cup of coffee in his India training gear on a Southern Rail train. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, there's a great chance I could have been on that train and never ever known that Virat Kohli might have been sat in the carriage next down, which is quite a mental thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're both going to be undercooked, aren't they? A lot of their players have all come from the IPL. They're not playing red ball cricket. Australia have got a bit of an advantage. Smith's at Sussex, Labuschagne's at Glamorgan. I think he's like top of the charts in Div 2 with the exception of Pujara. Nisa's been taking absolute buckets of wickets for Glamorgan as well. Boland looks like he probably should have been born and raised in England to play and bowl in these English conditions. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I think India have got a great chance.
Do you? So you're backing India?
I am, yeah. I'm saying India are going to win.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably upset a lot of people. I think Australia are going to win.
Women's Ashes. That is happening this summer as well. I have got a list here. I don't know them off the top of my head, but we've got a test match at Trent Bridge on June the 22nd, 3 ODIs, Edgbaston, Oval and Lords throughout the start of July, and 3 T20s in the middle of July at Bristol, Southampton and Taunton. I know you've done a lot of research on this series. And obviously, one of your clients is Heather Knight as well, so a bit more kind of inside information too. How do you see that going? I know there's been some news lately, isn't there? Meg Lanning's not going to come over, which is going to be huge for Australia. But Australian team, they just look ridiculous. They look almost unbeatable, I think.
Yes, hands up. I do have some inside information, so I'm going to try. And I was going to portray it as all my own info, but yeah, Heather is a client of mine. Also, Alex Hartley, who's a World Cup winner and works across a lot of the BBC cricket coverage. I did speak to her, so I have got lots of info. I actually think the Women's Ashes, and the ticket sales have been through. I don't know if you've seen, but have been through the roof, which is fantastic. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting series. Because Meg Lanning not being available is a big loss to Australia. Catherine Shivath-Brunt retiring is a loss to England, and that lack of I think Kate Cross is going to be super important, and whether she can be. She's had some health difficulties. England really need her to be fit to lead that attack in replacement of Catherine. But I think why it's interesting is because I think Australia are phenomenal, but particularly in white ball. I think England might edge them in the test match. I just think that, I do. I think the brand of cricket they play, I think in Sophie Ecclestone, they've got a world-class spinner. I think I could see England winning that test match.
One player that I really want to see England pick is Izzy Wong. She's won the IPL for Mumbai. She looks like such a competitor. And all through that T20 World Cup, I could not understand as to why she wasn't in that team. It baffled me from a fan's perspective. I just wanted her to play. She's so exciting. She
is. She needs an experienced head next to her, though. She needs, and in a long series like that, you need a Catherine Brunt or a Kate Cross type of person alongside her. That's going to be really important. That lack of seam bowling depth worries me a little bit for England. That in Ecclestone they've got maybe the best spinner in the world. But Australia have played her quite well in the past and played her quite well in the last World Cup. So, and I'm clearly going to say this because I think she's my client, but I think Heather Knight's a phenomenal England captain and she will lead them brilliantly. I think there's more of a struggle that's going to happen than people might think. I think people and I totally, everything you said, I don't disagree with. Like Australia's so dominant, it's this could be, even without Meg Lanning, could be quite one-way traffic. I'm not so sure.
with this series coming up, I have got the fixture details again, but I don't know what they are. So I will read them out. But we've got Edgbaston, Lords, Headingley, Old Trafford, and the Oval as the and Siri's going to pipe in a minute, and I don't really know why. So we have got 5 tests, starting at Fortress Edgbaston, which I don't think was a fortress last time from memory. England, fast bowling injuries. That seems like a pretty common theme to talk about, doesn't it? And I'm sure I know you've got Saqib Mahmood as one of your clients, and I'm sure you've had plenty of other experience with fast bowlers too. But Jofra's out. Ollie Stone has a hamstring injury, and I think he said at least he was going to miss the first 2 tests, but I don't know whether there's any chance of him coming back for the 3rd, 4th or 5th. Jimmy, the world stopped breathing, didn't it, up at Old Trafford the other week when he didn't come back out onto the field, but he's declared himself fit for the first test. Robinson picked up an injury as well, I think. It's only minor. How do we get why? How are we so unlucky? I don't understand. I know Hazelwood's got a bit of a knock at the moment, but why aren't we talking about Cummins being injured and Stark being injured and Boland being injured? It's just all of ours. It's not fair.
Well, there's still time. Who knows? They've got to play a test match, haven't they, against India? If Cummins gets injured during that, I mean, the reality for England is, a life beyond Jimmy Anderson, particularly, but Anderson and Broad is. I don't think you can prepare for it. I know we all appreciate how good they are, but when they finish playing, we will go, wow, what a hole to fill. And for England, going into this Ashes series, Jimmy's already publicly stated if he plays 3 out of the 5 test matches, that's a success for him. Broad's going to be similar. So that being the case, they are not going to be available for 2 of the test matches at least. So England's ability to beat Australia has got to come bowling-wise from guys outside of Jimmy and Broad, which is slightly not terrifying because we've got some really good seamers, but it's something as fans we're not necessarily used to. It's like, well, no, we're just Jimmy. What we're going to do, Jimmy, Broad, type of thing. Well, the reality is we have to face up to the fact that is probably not going to be enough to win the Ashes. I just think it's the nature of fast bowling. I think for us, starting Edgbaston is massive because it is a fortress. Jimmy bowls brilliantly at Edgbaston. I'll probably give him the kiss of death, but he's a genius everywhere, but brilliantly at Edgbaston. I think Robinson's a massive bowler for us. And just the lengths he bowls, he's different to the others, but he's massive for us. And I think it'd be interesting coming to that Old Trafford Oval Test match at the end, whether I'm obviously going to say Saqib Mahmood. I think a bowler like that who bowls really well on drier surfaces at Old Trafford and the Oval, which will be drier surfaces than an Edgbaston, for instance. Be really interesting if we can bring in somebody like that. You've mentioned Ollie Stone as well, but an Ollie Stone, Saqib Mahmood, I wouldn't be surprised to see Saqib play in this Ashes series.
Where do you sit on the Bairstow Foakes kind of? I mean, I know the argument's been settled at the moment, isn't it? Because Bairstow's playing and Foakes isn't, but that's a massive kind of talking point, and a lot of people love to talk about it. Foakes, you've got as an out and out purist with the gloves, quality batter as well. Let's not kind of do him any disservice. Or you've got the absolute kind of muscle. And a good gloveman from Johnny Bairstow, and a lad that, what did he average? Like 80 last year, didn't he, before he went golfing? Which, they was just caught between a rock and a hard place with those two, because you can't drop Harry Brook either.
No. I mean, it's a really interesting one, because it's not ordinarily when a purist wicketkeeper, and that almost makes Ben Foakes sound like a kind of he can't bat type thing. It's just not true at all. He's a brilliant player, and would probably get into most test teams around the world. But often when there's this debate between more of a batter, more of a keeper, it's to do with the balance of the team. That's what often comes in. But actually this isn't in play in this, because England have quite a lot of all-rounders, Stokes being one of them. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about that. And I actually think the debate is more at the top of the order. And Crawley's going to be under, who I think is really talented, but this is going to be a huge series for him. And obviously they've got the Ireland test coming up this week, which is going to be a good preparation to see where people are at. But it's whether actually, if you wanted Foakes in the team, you needed to rejig something at the top and shuffle the pack a little bit to allow Bairstow to play. Because I think in Bairstow, it is his ability as a cricketer, but it's his mentality as a cricketer. I think they love that up and at him. He's not going to take a backward step. And he's not. That's the type of character he is. And you do need a bit of that in against Australia in all Test cricket. So I definitely can see why they wanted Bairstow back in there as quickly as they could. I think the choice wasn't Foakes versus Bairstow. I think it was actually Foakes versus Crawley and a reshuffling of the pack as to how that would work. And it's not a perfect fit.
No, and for the first time, really, for a long time with this England cricket, I completely trust the selectors, the coaching team, the captaincy, and all those decisions that are being made. Question I get asked loads is if we don't do well in the first test, are we going to carry on with this new cavalier kind of cricket, Bazball? Because I don't think people are allowed to call it Bazball. I don't know what they're allowed to call it. But like, do England carry on? And like, to me, the simple answer is just yes. I mean, England were, and I know you might nod and agree, but I appreciate you've got different hats on with different fields, but they were so bad before McCullum and Stokes. 1 test win in 19. And that is about as stinky as it gets as a record in any sport along any kind of period of history of time. I don't know why, because I mean, the players haven't changed, and that's going to be one of the things that's going to probably puzzle me till the day that I die. But why would they ever change it? It didn't work before. It wasn't even close really to working before. Stick to what has worked over the last 12 months. And at least we're going to have fun, whatever happens from it. It's going to be enjoyable, isn't it? Which is more so than what can be said than what we had 12 months ago.
Yeah, I think also I would... You've got to consider the personalities involved. You know, McCullum and Stokes, they're playing a brand of cricket that is them. They believe in it, that this is how they play the game, how they believe it should be played. So asking them not to play that way is essentially asking them not to be who they are, which is not going to happen. So, you know, if England don't do well in the first test, they won't change a thing because this is who they are. If somebody wanted to change it, you'd have to remove McCullum and Stokes as captain. That's what's going to happen. Finally,
before we kind of end this, what's your score prediction? I'm saying 3-1 England across the course of this
3-1
series.
Okay, yeah. I've been through it in my notes this morning. I've got receipts, Dan. Edgbaston, England win. Anderson's going to rip them apart. Lords is going to be a draw because it flattens out and it's going to end in a draw. Headingley, we've obviously got the Stokes from 2019, but I think Australia are going to win in Headingley. 1-1 going to Old Trafford. England's record at Old Trafford has been excellent recently, and we're going to win that test match. So it's going to be 2-1 heading into the Oval. All eyes on it, very 2005 looking, and that final Oval test match is going to be drawn, and England are gloriously going to win the Ashes 2-1. You heard it here first.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. 3-1, 2-1. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for kind of hanging out for the last hour. It's been great chatting with you. It's been really good fun. Thanks everybody that's kind of hung around and enjoyed the video. And again, as I said at the start, thanks so much for the last 2 months and the support that people have given. And it's been, as I said, overwhelming at points, and I'm incredibly grateful. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've definitely enjoyed chatting along. As I said, the content will change, and I've explained why. Please feel free to drop some comments down as to kind of thoughts, ideas, feedback, guest ideas, anything like that. I'll go through and read obviously the lot of them, and I'd be grateful to take anything on board that you might have kind of gone, oh, if you could have had this, or have you thought about this, or what about this guy or that girl or whatever. Please get in contact and let me know. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. It's been tough, but I'm looking forward to the summer and all of that cricket that we've just spoken about.